Hey guys, so predicting earthquakes, basically impossible. I'm sitting on the Cascadia Fault basically in Vancouver downtown, and scientists are telling me, well, this area is overdue for the big one, magnitude 9 or 10, but maybe in 50 years, maybe in 100 years, maybe tomorrow. And they can't predict a magnitude. So now they have come up with the idea to use artificial intelligence to be able to predict earthquakes. Is this going to work? We will talk about in this video how far they are and what they can do, because it would be absolutely awesome if AI could predict the next monster earthquake and save so many people. So seismologists are starting to bet more and more on AI. And earthquakes are unpredictable so far. They're becoming increasingly frequent and severe. That's why scientists have been racing to develop tools to predict these natural disasters, to warn people. But so far, with very, very limited success. So the earthquakes are still coming with a big surprise. Artificial intelligence is now offering a glimmer of hope because it can analyze data in a total different way, different and way faster. So because AI can analyze these vast amounts of data much faster, this could give scientists a tool to identify patterns that could signal an impending quake. So can this technology finally provide the answers that scientists have been seeking for? We will see. Let's look into this. And we know since at least the 1960s, the scientists and geologists, they have been attempting to use modern scientific methods to predict earthquakes, but their success rate was very, very limited to non-existent. So many scientists have, because of that, considered earthquake forecasting as impossible. And that's what it is declared until today. Or let's say they have declared it impossible, or at best they have approached this topic with an extremely tempered optimism. But we know just in the last year, AI has come so far and has developed so fast. One of the main factors that is basically preventing earthquake prediction right now is the complexity of the fault systems that are stretching all over the globe. And they're basically crisscrossing the earth. So it's so complex. So one is doing something that could trigger something here, and then it could travel. So to predict this, it's a lot of data. You need to get a lot of data from around the globe, and then you need to be able to process these data in a very, very short amount of time to say what's going on there that could trigger something big. You have to be fast. And this is where AI comes into play, hopefully. Because all these fault lines that are covering the earth, basically, they're fractures, fractured areas, or zone of fractures between two blocks of rocks. So the movement along these faults can happen very, very rapidly. They're grinding alongside each other, underneath each other, and that's then resulting in an earthquake. But it doesn't, it can be triggered from other fault lines that run from the side or along it. It's a very, very complex and difficult topic. And then there comes another problem. I mean, we can see most of the San Andreas Fault in California, for example, but sometimes you don't even know that there is a fault line or that a fault line exists. They're not always easy to identify because they're underground and very difficult to discover. So you have to find other methods to learn that something's going on there, because visibly you don't know. And another problem is, okay, how can we find out that something's going on underneath or that something's going on with a fault line? If you've watched my channel the last few months, you might have heard about Campi Flegrei, the potential supervolcano near Naples in Italy. And there have been several earthquakes in the magnitude 4, 4.4. And these earthquakes, they always come with how they describe it, with a roar. So you hear them coming. It looks like a missile that is coming in and then hitting. I've played you the noise in one of my Campi Flegrei videos. So there is something that you could hear, but that is just very, very shortly before it's even happening. But it seems there's something else that you might be able to hear, or with instruments that could give a warning. But the problem is our world is too loud. We may not hear something incoming with all the daily noise, with cars, with, if you're downtown in a city, there's airplanes, there's helicopters, there's street noise, construction noise, television, radio, all that stuff. But one thing is for sure, the earth is constantly rumbling and grumbling and moving and making some noise. So, but this noise that we have all over the world makes it very, very difficult to detect clear seismic signals. That's what the experts are saying. So what would be the best case scenario that scientists would need to be able to conduct a proper earthquake prediction? So according to the United States Geological Survey, a truly useful earthquake prediction requires basically 3 elements. We need to predict, of course, most important, the location, right? You need to know where, the timing, when, and of course the magnitude. The magnitude is important. Well, let's say you have the location and you say, okay, tomorrow 11 p.m. there's going to be an earthquake in an area that has hundreds of low energy, low magnitude earthquakes every day or on a regular basis. That doesn't help people, because then they're like, yeah, you need to know, okay, we expect a high magnitude, so be prepared. But so far, and the scientists all over the world agree on this, they have no system in place where they would be able to successfully predict earthquakes using or predicting these 3 components with certainty. Not possible, hasn't happened. So it is still a guessing game what the scientists are doing there. So the geologists and the seismologists, instead of predicting, they have created hazard maps where they say, well, you have a higher risk that something of that magnitude might happen here with a probability of that many percent within the next 10 years, 30 years, 100 years. So that is basically the situation I am in here, right? With the Cascadia subduction zone. So something might happen within the next 30 years with that and that much percentage. And yeah, but should I be prepared, like duck and cover underneath my desk for the next 30 years and wait for the earthquake? Or people just go on with their lives? You can be prepared to a certain extent, but let's be honest, and I just released recently a video about what will happen to the capital of British Columbia in Canada, Victoria, with all these old brick buildings, and how this will affect the whole town once the big one hits. And that's a devastating effect that this earthquake will have. So if scientists were able to predict this with even only a day warning, that would be significant, even hours, right? So right now, we only have some hazard maps with an estimate of an earthquake occurring within a specific timeline. We also know another big one in California is basically overdue with the San Andreas Fault, but tomorrow, in 3 years, and 10 years, who knows? And where will the San Andreas Fault rupture first? In the southern part, or in the northern part, or in the middle, or all together? We don't know. And the same goes for the Cascadia subduction zone that goes all along the west coast from Northern California, along Oregon, Washington, and into the southern part of British Columbia, and then goes along Vancouver Island. It could rip all at once. The northern part could rip first, or the middle part around Salem, Portland, Oregon, or in Canada, right? So we don't know. So the maps, these hazard maps, they can aid in planning. That, of course, you can say, well, especially in this area, we need to adjust our building codes, make buildings more safe for earthquakes and stuff like this. Yes, this all helps. Like have this shakeout training for people and residents, always have water with you, be prepared. But still, it's going to be absolute chaos if a big earthquake hits. But all that doesn't offer the precision that would be needed for early warnings, and that would allow people to evacuate or take reasonable shelter. And that's the big problem. So, of course, with more construction, with more development, many earthquake-prone areas that haven't been that critical before because they haven't been so densely populated, so it hasn't been such a big problem, but it's becoming more and more problematic with more people living in earthquake-prone areas like here, Vancouver, Richmond. Richmond is in a zone that will be highly affected with liquefaction because the soil will basically act like water. The buildings will sink, tilt. It'll be catastrophic if the big one hits with magnitude 9 or higher here in Canada, for example. But same goes for Portland or Seattle, the big one that will have a major impact. So that's why scientists have looked at exploring various other methods of how can we predict this. So looking for seismic signals that stand out. If this is a certain seismic signal, could this tell us something? But also to animal behavior and atmospheric changes. And yes, many people say the animals know beforehand, your dogs will alert you, but I have a lot of dogs, but how do I know if Rudy's bothering me and freaking out? Did he hear the neighbor's lady dog, or is he hungry, or does he need to pee? It's very hard to really watch out for this. And I have cameras all over my farm. I see my horses on the pasture. And a few years back, there was an earthquake that didn't really do damage or anything, but I was sitting on the couch and I heard something like an explosion, like a jet breaking the sound barrier. You hear that boom. And it's not that my house was shaking like this or anything. It was doing like a tremor, like, and then I only saw my light swinging just a little bit. But I was interested. I said, okay, let's replay the cameras. Did the horses recognize anything, or did they do anything? So they were out on the fields grazing, and then the boom came, and some of them just lifted their head just shortly and then went back to grazing. So they didn't run, but also there was no indication that they would show any signs that something is coming. So maybe they didn't because they knew it's not going to be a big catastrophic one. Who knows? And same was with the dogs. They didn't really alert me, although they were sitting on the couch with me. But one story I have to tell you, my first little Westie Petty that I had, I was hiking a mountain trail with my parents, and then he was absolutely refusing to walk on. So he was running free, so we were putting him on the leash, trying to make him move, and he was just blocking, putting the brakes on a mountain trail in a forest. So he wouldn't go. So he was keeping us busy there, and a few seconds after, really honestly, a tree was falling down across the trail. That the likelihood that it would have hit us was very high. So he must have felt the tremors or something that was indicating him the roots are getting loose, the trees falling. So I still remember this. This was absolutely amazing. And then they're also looking, aside from the pets, are there any atmospheric changes that could indicate that something's going on? That is an interesting theory that I haven't heard about so far. So with all the stuff that they're trying, they still can't predict. They need to fill the gap that puts it all together, that gives them really a serious prediction. And this is what scientists are hoping, that AI will fill that gap, that prediction gap. Because what AI basically does, if you take a single scientist or multiple scientists, AI is basically multiplying and accelerating the capabilities of a single scientist or of a group of scientists. And that is where the significant advantage comes in, because earthquake prediction heavily relies on numerous data points, and it is extremely time sensitive. So you need to be really fast. So what AI programs can do, they can analyze multiple seismic records simultaneously, very fast, and then rendering them with high precision in 3D models, way faster than any human could do. So they're taking the signals and they're building 3D models that could show scientists what is happening underneath. And it would be so amazing if they could do this with volcanoes, with magma chambers as well. If you're watching my channel, scientists are scratching their heads. What's going on underneath Iceland? What's going on underneath the potential supervolcano Campi Flegrei? And I've just released a video yesterday about Vesuvius that is showing signs of unusual activity in some measuring areas. So is Vesuvius waking up? Could we see a Vesuvius eruption? Or is the rumbling that's going on in Campi Flegrei, that Brady seism, the land rise, is that pressure stretching over to Vesuvius? So maybe AI could help there as well. Check out that video, by the way. It's a long one, but it's worth watching. Gives you all the data. I'll put it in the end screen. But let's go back for AI earthquake hunting. So the scientists of the California Institute of Technology, they have basically built an AI program and they're already testing it in California. That is really great. So, and they're at the right place for testing it, right? Because California is a highly geologically active area, to say it in a nice way. And it is densely instrumented with seismometers, so they can collect data from all over the place in California. And because you need to have the seismometers in order to the AI to do some work, right? So what have they done there? They have used seismic waveforms from across Southern California that human scientists had previously identified as genuine earthquakes. So confirmed wavelength of earthquakes. And how they're describing it, these waveforms, they're basically describing it like each earthquake creates its unique waveform, its unique song. And then the scientists have recorded these songs from various earthquakes. And for each earthquake, they have identified basically specific notes and rhythms that make each earthquake unique in its own way. And then now they are creating a library of these earthquake songs. And that's important because this is what AI then can use to compare against. So now they're using this computer program that they have created to basically to listen constantly to the earth humming, right? Is there a song coming or not? What is the earth humming? Because the earth is constantly humming. So they're listening in. And then this AI software is basically searching for any new songs that would match the songs that they have in their library. And if the software, let's say the software finds a match, that could then be the sign of an impending earthquake. Of course, the big question is, once they find the match, how much warning time do you have? Because then you already hear the song. And they already have results from this algorithm, from this AI. So what happened is this algorithm has quickly identified nearly 2 million previously undetected tiny quakes within a time frame from 2008 to 2017. And these findings have revealed, and that's the interesting part, because now they're learning more about what's going on underneath. These quakes have revealed a vast network of other faults and fault features that previous earthquake searches had missed. were not able to find. Problem with that software, that the first software that they programmed, was it was basically a precursor to a fully fledged AI software. So this software could only identify earthquakes in the seismic record that matched its training data. And that's a problem because if each earthquake has a unique kind of song, so that meant for the scientists that new seismic events were overlooked, and then that's a problem. So that's why they were looking at more advanced self-learning programs, and that's what AI is, because they needed more advanced tools to make or to improve earthquake prediction or to create earthquake predictions. So these self-learning programs, what they wanted them to do, so that these programs would use existing information to predict the sound of a wider range of earthquakes. And it kind of worked. So these programs quickly identified many unfamiliar sounding quakes. And these quakes were then later also confirmed by human scientists that there were really earthquakes happening. So they have a base now, and these machine learning programs, they are continuing to evolve. And what they're doing right now already, they're doing more than just identifying quiet quakes and hidden faults. They have already been deployed all over California, and they have already been successful. They have identified a new type of long-lasting, slow-moving earthquake swarms, which scientists were not aware of before. So a long-lasting, slow-moving earthquake swarm that is happening there in California. Very interesting. But they have also used it in Hawaii. So the new program has discovered something there as well, a previously unknown network of pulsing, of migrating molten rock beneath two active volcanoes. And here it becomes very, very interesting for all us volcano freaks that are overlooking and watching everything that's going on all over the world. And this is what I said previously. Can this help us to learn more about where is the magma moving? How close to the surface is it? So traditional seismic methods in Hawaii were unable to detect this hidden activity. So they could detect that magma underneath was migrating between two volcanoes. And that is huge, in my opinion. That's absolutely huge. And the good thing is, these programs develop very fast, and they could be used to improve the speed and accuracy of early earthquake warning systems drastically. Because one thing is clear, and that's what the scientists are saying, we are already light years beyond of what we could have imagined just a few years ago. This is how fast everything has evolved. They're saying it's at superhuman levels right now. And let's jump to Japan, that has large earthquakes, that just had magnitude 7 and stuff this year. It's earthquake prone, and Tokyo, for example, very earthquake prone large city. They have AI software that will scan images from cameras that are perched at high points throughout the city to, for example, recognize fires and building collapses and alert authorities the moment they happen. At least they can do that, right? It's not a prediction. It won't prevent that from happening, but it gives a very, very quick, broad overview to officials where they need to go, where they need to send help, at least that. And by the end of last year, researchers at the University of Texas have also made a chunk of progress in their research of earthquake prediction. They have an AI algorithm, and that has predicted 70% of earthquakes 1 week in advance in a trial that they have conducted in China. 1 week. And that is groundbreaking in my opinion, because 1 week, that is huge, absolutely huge. Now we have earthquake warning systems in place that can give us maybe 3 seconds, 5 seconds, something like this, so that we can duck and cover, but that's about it. If you're in one of these old buildings in Victoria that are prone to collapse, that's not enough time to get out, but a week, you can evacuate whole cities. So what is great is that scientists all over the world are exploring these new software AIs. And there's another group that is based in Israel that claims to have developed a machine learning model that can predict large earthquakes 48 hours in advance with an accuracy of 83%. Guys, that would be mind-blowing, especially for an area where I am. So if the big one hits and we knew that 48 hours in advance, or in California, that would basically mean everyone would be safe, right? How do they do this? So they have a model where the AI analyzes changes in the electron content in the ionosphere over the past 20 years. So this is something that is very interesting. That is something we don't hear very often. So I really, really hope that they're successful and that what they're saying is really true, because that would be mind-blowing. One thing though that all the scientists are saying, and maybe they're just saying this for their own protection, but always you need someone to give the new input to these machines, but they might reach a point in the near future where they don't need the humans anymore. So the scientists are now saying, the geologists, the seismologists, they say despite the advancements with the AI programs, they won't replace human scientists. They're just tools. But what they're also saying, they could become as essential as seismometers in the future. And I honestly believe they will be way more than seismometers, and they will be able to almost replace humans. That is what I believe. So let me know, what's your take from this? Is this something that you think is real? Is that interesting to you? Let me know. Let's discuss in the comments, guys, and check out the videos here in the end screen that I have mentioned during this video. Very, very interesting stuff. Especially this one here about what's going on at Vesuvius. I know it's a longer one, but I'm really going into the details, what the INGV has just released, all the maps, all the graphs, all the latest data from last month back to 2006. So we see the development, what's happening with Vesuvius. And since we're following Campi Flegrei so closely, if there is a connection, oh my God, it's more than 6 million people that are basically densely squeezed between these two monster volcanoes. So check it out, guys. Stay safe. I hope to see you very, very soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.